Okay, so the day that I'm recording this, actually at my church, we had a celebration of our 150th plus two anniversary for the founding of our church. And I have a point to this story. And as a result of that, we were supposed to have it 2 years ago, but because of COVID, that didn't happen. And it got postponed, and we did it today. And as a result of that, we are able to have a bunch of like former pastors and such, and like vicars and things like that, and other people that have like come out of the congregation, come back to the congregation and like be there for the big, celebration and everything. And, one of this involves one of our pastors who had been a pastor there in my, my late teenage years up through my very early 20s. And, they were there for quite a while. And him and his wife had two daughters. One of them they already had before they came, and a couple of years before they left or went on to go and become have a call of their own. He had been our assisting minister, and he went on to go become a leading minister at his own church. And what happened is they had two daughters. Their younger daughter was about 2.5 when they left, and that was about 7 years ago, so she's about 9 now. So I'm sitting at the table with my dad and my grandpa and, some other people and everything. It's this big, dining area setup that we have. And we're all eating and everything, and she comes by, and I'm wearing my my Dark Magician Girl t-shirt, and she goes, "You like anime?" And I'm like, "Yes, I love anime." And she goes, "Do you know what MHA is?" And I go, "My Hero Academia." And I pulled out my wallet, because my wallet is a My Hero Academia wallet, and I showed her the wallet, and she's just like, and then like she walked by again later, and I'm like, "We can talk about My Hero later and everything." And we did talk a little bit. She's, she doesn't have as much knowledge of it as I do, but she still enjoys it and everything. And so I like that. But then also this is a Mother's Day video, and the way that I will be spending part of my Mother's Day is the Saturday before Mother's Day, is actually kind of the anniversary of when my grandmother on my father's side passed away. About 5 years ago she passed away. And so as the fact that it lands on Mother's Day, that Saturday we are going to get together. My dad and my grandfather and my aunts and uncles and cousins and such are going to get together at the retirement home where my grandfather lives. And we're going to get together there and just have like a nice lunch and, just relax and talk and everything. And, just because we used to get together for like Mother's Day and Father's Day and stuff anyway, but that way we can, honor her that way. And this is a Mother's Day video. Last year I did a whole bunch of different like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Sister's Day, Brother's Day, Grandparents' Days and such like that, for One Piece. So this year I'm going to do similarly, but it's going to be for my hero characters, for my Hero Academia characters. So that's what this one is. This is going to be the Mother's Day one. Longer intro than I normally do, but I just kind of wanted to, I had two stories that related to this video. One is because of my hero, one is because of, Mother's Day. So, what I'm going to talk about today is just I'm going to go through basically all of the mother, or to a degree, one of them is more of a mother figure in My Hero Academia, and just kind of talk about them a little bit, like their role as a mother, to whatever child they may have, and kind of their impact on the story. So the first one is obviously Inko Midoriya. I have a whole other video where I discuss Inko Midoriya, just her life and everything, and her as a mother to Izuku, the way she reacted when he was, said to be quirkless later on, how supportive she was of him, being a hero, how worried she gets to be about him now, which I don't blame her in the slightest. So, I've done a whole discussion video on her. But I wanted to go over just small in this one again. Of course, obviously, she was very sorry for her son, and she, regretted the fact that she wasn't as supportive of him as she should have been. In regards to him not having a quirk and still trying to be supportive of him being a hero. And, now she's very supportive. She's the one that designed his original costume, obviously, and he still keeps his, simple costume design kind of based on that, the underlying parts of it based on that, based on what his mother initially made. We've seen how strong she is in the fact that she, even though she's this, like, 30-some-ish-year-old, 38, I think she was like 38 or something like that, 30s-year-old woman who's like not a hero, doesn't have a strong quirk, that she's like stood up to All Might, and she's like glared All Might down at times. And I'm sure that when she found out that like All Might gave Izuku his quirk, that she probably chewed All Might out, and I wouldn't have blamed her in the slightest for doing that. So we've kind of seen what she's capable of, and the fact that she is just this mother force in the My Hero world for Izuku. The second one on the list is Rei Todoroki. I have a whole other video where I've discussed Rei Todoroki and her relationship with Enji and with her children and such. So just, overall, she is, of course, the mother of Toya slash Dabi, Fuyumi, Natsuo, and Shoto. And of course, she's the one, of course, she gave Shoto his scar. And he does not blame her for that in the slightest. He puts all that blame on his father and everything. But, we've seen throughout the course of the series how her and Shoto have, like, fixed their relationship, her relationship that she has with Fuyumi and Natsuo and everything. And, how that's gone through, and just how determined she is now to try to help her family try to fix its mistakes with what happened with Toya. And, we've seen that. It'll be very interesting to see, like, where Rei ends up at the end of the story. Supposedly, at the moment, it's going to be that Endeavor stays in their old home, the Todoroki estate, and then he bought a new home that is going to be for Rei, and then Natsuo, Fuyumi, and Shoto to live in with her. I don't think Natsuo actually lives at home. I think he lives at college, but, like, Fuyumi still lives at home, and, like, Natsuo still lives at home when he's not in the dorms. Or at least they did before everybody got rehoused at a UA. I'm assuming Rei and Fuyumi and Natsuo are also being housed at UA. We just didn't see them at all. During, like, when the class came back to UA, we didn't see that when they brought Deku back, but I'm assuming they're there too, just for safety purposes. So that's supposedly where she's going to end up being at the end of the series, but we'll see how that goes. But I've done a whole other discussion videos on that. Now we get into the ones that I haven't really talked about too much, which is, of course, Mitsuki Bakugo, who's, of course, the mother of, Katsuki Bakugo. Her quirk, which is where part of Bakugo's quirk from, is called glycerin. She sweats glycerin, as in, like, nitroglycerin, where the glycerin comes from for him, and then his father has an acid quirk. He sweats acid, so I guess glycerin plus acid quirk equals Bakugo making explosions. We've seen bits of her. Her and Bakugo have very similar personalities, and they look like Bakugo is basically the male version of his mother. And the fact that, they look so much alike and everything, but they have very similar attitudes about, just they like to argue and they butt heads all the time. And then, like, his father is like this much more calming presence in the home. I feel slightly sorry for Masaru in that household. But so we've seen a fair amount of that. We've seen the main interaction that we've seen is when Aizawa and All Might go and talk to Bakugos about Bakugo coming and living in the dorms at UA. And that's when we're first fully introduced to Bakugo's parents, or several of the parents. But when we're introduced to them. And, she's very shouty, and, her and Bakugo argue a whole bunch and everything. But she doesn't seem to, she makes a comment about the fact that, like, so many people have praised Bakugo over the years because of his quirk and how smart and everything he is. But I think one of the reasons she does the way that she is because she also kind of likes to, like, maybe try to keep him a little more grounded. Not in the best way, but she's attempting to. And her and her husband obviously do show concern about Bakugo and everything. They were probably quite upset when they found out that their son had been kidnapped, and then, other things that have happened and everything. And it is thought that, like, Inko and Mitsuki, like, know each other because, like, Izuku and Kacchan were, like, best friends when they were kids, so their parents probably knew each other. And there's, like, this whole, I've looked all over. There's no, like, substantial evidence for this, but it's just a, fan theory that, like, oh, Mitsuki and Inko, like, knew each other in college, and then, Mitsuki married, Masaru, And then, they had Bakugo, and Inko married, her husband, and they had Izuku. And then, they were just like friends. And like, that's why their sons were best friends for so long. Or, when they were so young. So there's some of that. We don't really see that much of his parents. We'll see what else happened. We don't see that much of them, but we'll see what else happens toward the end of the series. I'm sure we'll probably get to see them again at some point, I would assume. Don't know exactly when that will be, but we'll see. Next up on the list, I was just going to work my way through the Class 1A students, because we don't know anything about the parents of Class 1B. So the first one I wanted to go through is Aoyama's mother. We found about this very recently. We've seen Aoyama's mother much earlier on in the series. We actually see her first during the fight with All Might. When All Might and All For One are fighting against each other, we see his mother there watching the footage with him. And then much more in the recent chapters, when we found out that Aoyama had been the traitor the entire time, we found out that his mother and father, when they lived in France, when Aoyama was, so little and everything, and it was like, oh, he's diagnosed quirkless, they apparently had contacts or enough money that they were able to, get in touch with All For One. And then, he gave, Yuga the quirk. He gave, him his naval laser and everything that allowed him to then, train to become a hero and everything. And, his parents did that out of love for him, but then they also got you make a deal with the devil. And, we've seen, they've got, they were helpful in the plan to try to get to All For One and everything. The fact that they, let, Shinzo, kind of brainwash them and, do what they were supposed to do and everything. They were very concerned about Aoyama and everything, and it was kind of like this whole thing of just like, if you do this one more thing, then we're off the hook, we're done. And, Yuga didn't want his parents to die because he loves his parents and everything. But I'm assuming that once everything's been all ironed out with One For All, or the All For One, that his parents may end up being in prison for a little while, even with cooperating and everything, or at the very least under house arrest. Don't know about Yuga, because there's like a different thing, and it's like he's a minor, but I don't know how law works in Japan, and laws are kind of out the window at the moment to a degree in My Hero with the way everything's going. So we'll see what happens with that. The other mother, one of the other mothers we've seen is, of course, Suyu's mother, Buru, and she has the same quirk as Suyu. All of Suyu's relatives, her mother and her father and her sister and brother, all have the same quirk. Suru has two younger siblings also. Semidari, who is her brother, and then Satsuki, who is her sister. And Sue and her mother look a fair amount alike. Her father is the most frog-like out of all of the family. But like we've seen them, they got like a little side episode, I think. I don't think it ever got put into English, but I would have liked it. There's a couple of side like OVAs that I kind of wish that they put into English, like where you meet Sue's friend from like middle school. I kind of wish they did those in English. But, we don't really see that much of Sue's family, but I'm assuming just like the rest of the parents right now, they're probably at UA. I don't remember if we saw them in the crowds at all, as far as I can remember. I don't remember seeing them. But, they're there. And then we have Tenya and Tensei's mother, who is, of course, possibly also had been a hero as well, or is a hero now. We're not sure, because Ida states that, Ida states that, he comes from this family of heroes, and his brother's in Genium, and now he's in Genium, 2.0 or in Genium 2, and his parents, one of his parents had been a hero, possibly both of his parents, and the fact that their mother, who we only seen twice in series, once when Ida goes and finds out that his brother got attacked by Stain and everything, we see her at the hospital, and then later on we see her with Tensei, when Tensei's in the wheelchair, and they're talking to Ida about how to improve on his quirk, and they tell him, oh well, there's this family secret of what you can do, and that's where Ida finds out about the fact that you can pull out your own pipes and the new ones will grow. I'm still just, oh my god, by that. I mean, it makes sense in the fact of what they are, and it's quirk related, but still, oh my god. Oh my god, that's still just, why Wow. But what we see is she seems to be very caring and everything. We've also seen their father, but we've seen less of their father, and I'll go him a little bit over him a little bit more in the Father's Day one. Um, but we don't see her that much, but she's there. She's probably very calming, or very supportive of both of her sons. And Tensei's in his recovering at the moment, and in Tenya in regards to him taking on this new role as a Genium and getting stronger and stronger. And she may have also have been like a hero in the past, or she may currently be a hero. It's just she's like retired from being a hero to raise her sons. Might have just been what it is, and maybe their father is still a hero, but we haven't heard that much about their father, so there's not much there. Next up, we have Chaco's mother. We of course know that Chaco's parents run a construction business, and that it's not a very flourishing one, but they do run one, and that they don't have a whole lot of money. So of course Chaco wants to become a hero so she can make money, so that way she can then be able to give her parents kind of a more life of luxury, which as Izuku states, that's not a thing to look down on someone for. It's not bad to want to be a hero because you can get money. It's she wants to become a hero so she can have money so her parents are taken care of, which I don't see that as a problem. Her parents are very supportive of her. They probably did what they could to help her get into UA and help her be able to live in the city for a while before they got moved into the dorm systems. After the sports festival, we know that Ochako calls her parents, and after her fight with Bakugo, and they say how proud they were of her and how good she did and everything, and that she managed to even get to those fights, and then did so well and impressed everybody and everything. And we know that they come and visit her. I don't remember exactly when it is they come and visit, but they do come and visit her at one point, and she's just so shocked to see them, but she's so happy to see them. And I think we see her parents at UA when everybody's there taking shelter at UA right now. I think we saw her parents in the crowd as well. So they saw her give the big speech about Izuku and everything. I don't believe we ever found out what either of her parents' quirks are. But maybe one of them has a similar quirk in regards to maybe not negating gravity, but maybe lightening gravity or something like that her quirk may have evolved from, or may have a telekinetic type quirk that then her quirk grew out of. So we don't know exactly. I don't think we'll ever find out. But we do know that she loves her parents very much and that they are very supportive of her. Down the line, we have Mika Jiro, who is Koyoka's mother. And they have the same quirk. They both have the earphone jack quirk. And we know that Koyoka has a very good relationship with her parents. She was a little worried that her parents were going to be sad that she didn't want to go into the music business, because we know that both her mother and her father are in the music business. And I think it's her dad's a performer, and I think her mother was a producer or something like that, if I remember correctly. But Koyoka gets her love of music from her parents, but she also wanted to become a hero. And her parents, we see this with when All Might and Izawa are at the house, visiting them in regards to trying to convince them to allow, Koyoka to come to UA to come and live in the dorm system and everything. And her parents already are yeah, that's fine, but her dad tries to play tough and everything, and her mom's just off to the side. I'm pretty sure her mom's just I married an idiot, but okay, whatever. But it's just they seem very supportive of Koyoka. And we see a little bit more about her dad, but we know that her mother is probably the same way. There's not too much else there. We haven't seen that much for them. Yeah, I do believe that they were very concerned when she, of course, was, affected by the mustard gas when the Vanguard Action Squad attacked. So there's that. But, I don't blame them for that. If that happened to my child, I'd be quite worried as well. Other one we have is Toru's mother. Again, we don't know Toru's mother's name. There's a couple of these characters that we don't know their names. We don't know Achaku's mother's name. We don't know Toru's mother's name. So Hagakure's mother. They have the same quirk. Both her and her father both have both of Toru's parents have an invisibility quirk, same as her. So I like the idea that it's like we got very recently in the manga, we kind of got like an outline of what, you know, Toru's face looks like and everything. So a little bit more detail. When we got that very emotional scene when she kind of confronts Aoyama in the forest. But we don't know anything else about like what her parents look like, and like I'm assuming it's just, you know, probably average looking parents. It's just that they're invisible. So, you know, in that case, it really is beauty in the eye of the beholder. But we don't know anything else about them. And that last one for Class 1A, we have Momo's mother, Momo Yaoyorozu's mother. We do know that Momo's family is very rich and influential because she comes from this family of heroes, or at least hero-related work. We don't know what her parents do exactly. There's like, hero is part of what they do, so I think they're like from a hero family, but we've never heard it stated like what her parents, like, are her parents actually heroes, or like were her grandparents heroes or something. We do know that they were able to use their money to be able to help Momo be able to use her quirk enough, because, you know, her quirk is, of course, you know, she has to have a lot of fat lipids in order to, you know, create whatever object it is she's trying to create. And, you know, that probably required her eating lots of food for her to be able to practice this quirk, and having like the reading materials and everything that she would need, or like the teachers that would be able to help her understand how these different objects are made and how they work, so that way she can then create them herself. And, you know, I think it stated that like they had to buy lots of like they bought a lot of like the Russian nesting dolls for her to be able to look at and like study, so she could then like learn how to multiply them with her quirk, reproduce them, which is still pretty kind of cool and everything like that. And of course, we know that Momo comes from a very, you know, wealthy background, obviously. But I also like that she doesn't try to rub that in people's faces. That is one of the things that I do like about Momo, is that she doesn't try to rub the fact that she has money in their faces. She kind of goes a little bit overboard at times, but that's not because she is trying to rub it in their faces. Like, she likes really expensive like tea and things like that, but it's not her trying to be mean or anything like that, or trying to be snuck up or snooty, or, you know, oh, look how much more money I have than you. It's just, she's very sweet, and she just sometimes doesn't get that maybe you shouldn't offer the really expensive tea all the time type of thing, but she's adorable that way. We may see her parents at some point in the future. I think we got like a little sketch of her mother at some point in time in the manga, but it wasn't really anything defining. And then now we're going to move on to some other various mothers. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is one that we found out a lot more recently about in the manga, is Tomei Takami, who is actually Hawks' mother. And we were only introduced to her via Hawk's backstory that we got a little while ago, where we found out that like his father had been a villain, and that his mother, she is very emotionally barren and kind of broken. What had happened was she held this very deep love for her husband, to the point where she, you know, helped hide him from authorities, and, you know, when he would, you know, committed a murder and everything like that. And she like saved him, so she was like obsessed with him to a degree. And, you know, she does have a quirk that allows her to like create these little floating eyeballs that pop up all over the place, which Hawks' quirk might be like an evolution of that, and the fact that like he can individually control his feathers and everything like that. She can pop these little eyeballs up all over the place, and she can use them to track people. But she was very desperate for this relationship with Hawks' father, and, you know, eventually it just became very, very stressful. But she had gotten pregnant, and they had Hawks, which forced them to stay together. And she has a very negative relationship with Hawks when he was a child, because it kind of forced her to stay with her husband, who I guess she maybe eventually realized probably wasn't the best person, but she still loved her husband and she didn't want to leave him. And Hawks' father was very abusive to him, but she didn't really do anything to try to stop that. You know, he was, you know, Hawks was subjected to his father's physical abuse, and, you know, Tomei didn't really do anything to stop it. And she wasn't really any supportive or anything like that. We do know that she did not like his wings. She thought that she was like, what are your wings good for and everything? They're not useful or anything like that. We do know that she is the one that bought him his little Endeavor doll that he had when he was a child. We do know that. And we do know that when Hawks was kind of found by the Hero Safety Commission, that part of his deal to like go and work with them and everything was like he wanted his mother to be taken care of, and she was. They held up their end of the bargain on that. And she seems to have gotten better. She has seemed to, she doesn't quite seem to have owned up to everything that she did with him, like the mistreatment that he went through as a child that she, was complicit in. Which I know that, sometimes being like the other parent in an abusive relationship, sometimes you can't do that much to protect your own child, or it's very hard for you to do. We kind of saw that with Ray, in regards to, how Toya and Dobby and, Toya and Shoto and such were treated. We kind of saw that with Ray. But, she seems to have gotten at least a bit better, but Dobby still used her as a threat, oh, I'll go after your mother or whatever to Hawks if you don't do what you're supposed to, type of thing. And she went on the run at some point later, so we don't know. We don't know currently where Hawks' mother is. She's on the run. Maybe she'll show back up again. I'm not all that interested in her. Then we have a couple others. We have Lockrock's wife. Or is it Lockrock, whichever. He's the hero with the quirk that allows him to freeze something in space for a short amount of time, and he's part of the raid against the Hasaikai. And he has a daughter, he has a wife, and they have a son. And she was very worried about him at the hospital and everything after what had happened with the Hasaikai, and such. And she's very pretty. And they seem to love each other very much. I'm pretty sure we're never going to see her again, but we know that Lockrock is very protective of his wife and son. And then we have Waterhorse. So we know who Kota is. Kota is, of course, the boy that lives with the Wild Pussycats, and he is his birth parents were a hero team called Waterhorse. And they were killed by Muscular when Kota was about 3 years old. And before then, he was very happy with his parents and everything, and had no problem with the fact that they were heroes. And then they died because of Muscular. And he just gets to the point where it's Kota is just he's so withdrawn into himself that he does not see the point in anybody being a hero if they're just going to get hurt. And of course, we know that leading into this, he is under the current custody of she's kind of his, biologically, they are second cousins or something like that, second or third cousins or something like that, which I don't know exactly how custody works in Japan, and the fact of, obviously his parents died, they were killed by Muscular, and then Kota obviously needed to go somewhere. I'm assuming neither parents on either side, his grandparents may not have been able to take him in, or maybe they were dead already or whatever, but Mandalay ended up being the one that was the most, I guess, qualified to take care of him. And I have her on this list as well as kind of, she's basically Kota's foster mother, and that is Shino Sosaki, Mandalay of the Wild Pussycats. She has a telepathic quirk, so she can, send out, messages to people via her mind. We know that she took Kota in. She loves Kota very, very much. Very, very much. And she, took him in when he was 3 years old, and she's raised him since. And, since his parents' deaths at Muscular's hands. And, the rest of the Wild Pussycats, Tiger and Pixie Bob and Ragdoll have probably also been very, very supportive in helping take care of Kota. And I skipped one on this, or I missed one earlier. So let me finish talking about Kota, and then I have one that I have to add in because I missed it. Or I forgot to write it down. So, we know that Kota is getting much better in his relationship, I'm assuming, with Mandalay, because of everything that happened with Izuku fighting Muscular and everything like that. So we know that that's getting better. But besides that, we don't really know too much else about what's going on with their relationship. He is at UA. We know that both, well, I don't think Mandalay might be part of this attack right now, big strategy against All For One, but I don't remember if she's there or not. Kota, we did see Kota at UA in regards to the fact that he was there with him and Eri, said goodbye to Izuku and everything before they left. Okay, so I'm going to add one in here that I forgot about. So, part of the Class 1A, one of the other parents that we have seen for Class 1A is actually Kota's mother. We've seen Kota's mother. And she looks very similar to him, and she's very supportive of him being a hero. That's about all I gotta add in there for that. I just blanked on her, or I forgot to put her on the list. Sorry. And then we have our next hero mother, which is Nana Shimura. So we don't find out that Nana had a child until a little ways in, and we find out that she had this son, Kotaro, and that she loves him very, 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 very much. She loved him so much, and she had to give him away because of he was a target for All For One, that All For One would have gone after him if she didn't give him up for adoption. And she did. She didn't change his last name, obviously, but she gave him up for adoption. And, he was taken in by this other family. We see these memories from Kotaro's point of view because, we see him having these memories about his mother and how, she had been there for him and she loved him so much and he loved her. But then she gave him up, and she gave him up for his own protection, but he took that as, oh, maybe she shouldn't have been a hero in the first place, or maybe she should have chosen between being a mother and being a hero, because she couldn't do both. Admittedly, he did not know about the threat of All For One. He did not know about that threat, I'm assuming. I don't know how you explain that threat to a child, but he didn't know about the threat. And Kotaro just became so despising of heroes that even mentioning heroes in his household was enough for him to, hurt his own children and everything. He despised that whole concept there, which, of course, we see in Tenko's backstory. And there's just that whole bit, but we know that Nana loved Kotaro very, very much, and that she gave him up for his own protection. And I'm assuming she would have been quite ashamed of what he turned into, but she would also probably blame herself for what he turned into as well. And the fact of, I'm the one that gave him up. I am the one that caused him to become what he became. And then that made him hurt his own children and hurt my grandchildren and everything. So I don't know what to say about that, but I just not fun. And then also going down the Shimura family, we have Nao Shimura, who is the mother of Tenko and Hana, so she is Kotaro's wife. She would be Nana's daughter-in-law. And we know that Nao is a very kind and gentle woman. She very much loves her children, and she does not like what her husband does to them. And at one point in the the night that everything goes down at the Shimura household with Tenko's quirk, she was actually ready to tell her husband that, no, I can't stay here anymore, and I'm taking the kids with me, and I'm taking my parents with me as well. And I think Kotaro would have been okay. He had finally gotten to the point where he was just like, I should let you go. I should let you go. And had that happen a little bit sooner, things may have turned out differently for our Tenko. But we know that Nao was very kind to both of her children. She didn't have a problem with heroes. She had nothing against Nana or Hana and Tenko wanting to be heroes. She would have been perfectly fine with that. But we see how gentle she is with him, with Tenko, when she's trying to help him, because it's his allergies are always messing with him, and he's always scratching, and she's just trying to calm him down and everything at times. And she's one of the ones that unfortunately the result of her, or the last things that we know about her, is she goes outside to try to, with her parents, to see what's going on with Tenko, because, he got in trouble and he's outside and crying and everything. And, quirk has now activated. Dog goes bye-bye. Hana went bye-bye. And then No and her parents go bye-bye. And then the house and Kotaru go bye-bye. Because of quirk. And, we know that one of her hands, no, I think it's both of her hands, were part of, the hands that Tenko had, that he had when he became Tomura. But I'm assuming all of those are all gone now. Bye-bye as well, hands. Along with his grandparents and his father and his sister and his grandmother. But yeah, if there's a thought there of like, had they left sooner, had she stood up to her husband sooner and like taken her children and left and taken her parents and left, maybe Tenko would have turned out differently. Maybe he could have gone on to be a hero. There's that thought there. And then, because I'll throw her in here, because she has a mother, we have Mako, who is Nao's mother. So she would be Tenko and Hana's grandmother, and she would be Kotaru's mother-in-law. So she is Nao's mother. Her and her husband live with Tenko and his family. And she just seems very kind and gentle as well. Both her and her husband do seem to be a bit afraid of Kotaru, which I'm not surprised by. We never find out what Kotaru's quirk is. We know that Nana had float, but we don't know like what Tenko, or we don't know if Hana had a quirk or not. But we don't know what Kotaru's quirk was, or even what Nao's quirk was. But, she's gone now too, so it's just like Tenko family, bye-bye. Shimura family, bye-bye. I have a whole other video about that where I talk about what happened with Tenko. I have a whole other video about that. It's like Shimura, a family in decay. It's like one of the first videos I made. One of the first My Hero videos that I made. So another one, kind of going into villain territory here, we have the mother of Himiko Toga. Now, we never find out her name, but we do get some flashbacks with her where it's like Toga's backstory is explained. And where it's, we see from her parents' perspective that they wanted her to be normal, but she couldn't be normal. It was just so against what she was. It was her quirk influencing her. And we see this during the backstory that we get during the My Hero or My Villain Academia arc, where it's, the hideout, or not the hideout raid arc, the war between the League of Villains and the Meta Liberation Army. We get Toga's backstory in this point in time. And, the little bits of what we see of her parents are, we see the flashback of, like, when she was a little kid, she was, using her quirk to, like, try to drink the blood of a bird, which is disturbing. It's like, I can see it from both sides with her and her parents, because with Toga's parents, she has this quirk that is very much against what society considers normal, because it allows her to drink someone's blood and then she can turn into that person, physically, resemble that person. And, I can understand why that would be an issue of a quirk, because she gets someone's blood and then she can go and pretend to be that person. But the problem is that via everything else that happened with her, because her parents forced her to go into this whole fake identity and just be this happy smiling girl that she didn't want to be, that form of her, that mask that she had. I might do a whole video where I talk about Toga's backstory, since we've, now gotten it in the anime. I might do a bit more of that, just kind of the way that her fight is going currently with Sue and Ochako. I might do a video about that. But what we see with that is I can see where both sides are coming from. With Toga, it's her quirk is being suppressed, with her instincts that go with her quirk are being suppressed, but she's not given an outlet. If she was given some form of an outlet that would allow her to use her quirk and not be despised for it, then maybe she could have turned out a bit differently. But then there's the whole thing of nurture versus nature, and she may just go psycho anyway. So yeah. Yeah. Next up, I think I have two more here, and then I have a little bit more for like the vigilante mother. So I have one here that is Aries' mother. We don't know that much about Aries' mother. We know that she was the daughter of the mob boss of the Hasaikai, because that's Aries' biological grandfather. We know that Aries' mother probably left that life a long time ago, and then got married, and then had Aries, and then when Aries was whatever age, and her quirk activated, it rewound her husband, rewound Aries' father, and then her mother didn't know what to do with her, so she just like took her and gave her to her grandfather and said, "I don't know what to do with this child. She's cursed." Which of course leads into Aries being used by Overhaul as an experiment and everything else that happens with her. And, again, there's parts of the My Hero world that need to be looked over in regards to just like how they track people. I'm sorry. How they can track people's quirks. They need a better look into that. But Aries' mother, she probably doesn't have a lot of memories of her. The closest we get to her, like some of the end credit scene or end credits that we get for the time frame when we're meeting Aries, we see like flashbacks of like her and her mother and such, her and her family, but not much. And I'm going to throw this one in here. We have the mother of all quirks. So the mother of quirks, I've talked about her before. She is Destro's mother. She is the one that came up with the term quirks instead of meta abilities. I apologize for your doors in the background. And she's, she came up with that term. She had her son. She loved her son, but she didn't want him to be discriminated against. And then, she eventually died. And then Destro, went on this, rampage and was this whole big villain at the time. This, horror, did so much stuff, problems and everything. And then, she's proclaimed as the mother of quirks later on and taught much more about, she's taught about in schools, but not like the full history of who she is. I have much more of an explanation or a discussion on her in a couple of other videos that I've done in the past. Last bit, we have some others here in Vigilantes. So Vigilantes is, of course, the side story to My Hero Academia that takes place about 5 years or so, I think, like before the actual story starts. So the main character in that is Koichi, or Crawler. And we met his mother at one point, Shoko Himawari. Okay, Himawari, I think I mispronounced it, but Shoko is his mother. And she's very bossy with her son. She slaps him whenever he makes a mistake, which is part of her quirk. She has a quirk that is called Fly Swatter, which she can use it to use energy waves to from her hand to attack from a further distance than she can normally reach. So it's it's like that's probably where Crawler's repelling and sliding around quirk probably came from as an extension of that. And we see her a little while. She pops up. She's very domineering and very, does not like it when her son doesn't do what he's supposed to and everything. She's not very good. She's not a very nice mother from what I saw, but I think she still loves her son, but she's very overbearing in the way that she treats him. She can be kind though and cordial at times. She, ends up making a better relationship down the line with, I believe, Pop Step and Knuckle Duster. I believe she makes better relationship with them because a little bit more polite. I do not know if she ever finds out that her son is a vigilante. I don't remember if she ever finds that out. That would be an interesting one. And then we have Knuckle Duster's wife, who is so Knuckle Duster has a daughter, and he was married at one point. His wife, we never found out her name, and they had their daughter, Tamao, and what eventually happened was, everything that happened with Tamao, of course, she got infected by, the villain factory, messed with her and everything, and she is now currently, I believe, hospitalized, but she's getting much better. She's recovering and everything. We don't know that much about her mother. We know that at one point her mother became very, very sick and was bedridden and was in this catatonic state and eventually did die, which then kind of promotes Knuckle Duster to be like, oh, no, now I'm going to go and actually save my daughter because she's the last thing I have left. And he does save her. I'll go over a bit more of like Knuckle Duster's relationship with his daughter in the Father's Day video when I get to that. And then the final one that I have for this list is Pamela. Now, Pamela is Captain Celebrity's wife. So Captain Celebrity is this, hero from My Hero that like comes over from the US, and he's just, he's like a hero for being famous type of a thing. He became a hero for the whole fame aspect of it. But throughout the course of the manga, in interacting with, Crawler and Pop Step and everything, he becomes a much better person. And he has his wife, Pamela, and they do have a son. And he loves his wife, and like she was his ex-wife, and then they got married again, is my understanding of it from what I saw. But, I might do a series at one point where I talk about, like, because I have, like, the One Piece couples videos, so I might do, like, My Hero couples videos at some point where I just talk about the different couples relationships that we've seen, but I haven't made that decision yet. We'll see. But, so he, Pamela very much loves her son, and she's, she has no problem with, like, putting Captain Celebrity in his place. I don't remember if Pamela has a quirk. It's been a little while since I remember reading about her in the manga, but I don't remember if she has a quirk or not. But she may have been quirkless, which was one of the reasons why she was not a big fan of the way that Captain Celebrity had been when they were younger, when they first got together. But, so there's that. So that's what I have for this video. Not a whole lot, but, not like too much else. There's a couple of the mothers that we don't know that much about just because they haven't been very prominent in the story. But, they're all still mothers in their own way. Some are good, some are bad, some are, they're there. And some of them we just don't know that much about. Like, we don't know that much about Toru's mother or different things like that. So, yeah, that's what I have. The other one that should be like this next, family day thing, I think it's supposed to be Brothers Day, and I think that's supposed to be later this month if I remember correctly. So I'll be going over the different brothers in My Hero, and of course I'll do like Father's Day and then Grandparents' Day and then Sisters' Day and such down the line. Aunts and Uncles' Day is one which is like, we don't really have any aunts and uncles in My Hero, so I don't think I can do an aunts and uncles day, but that's what we have. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are out there. Bye. Our Katsuki. He's rash on everything he does, and most things come easy to him. During his whole life, people have made a fuss about him by praising him for every little thing he does. So, I was glad to hear what you had to say at that press conference. I was thinking that UA really understands our boy.